Okay, why are we talking about all of 9/11? All of this just, it wasn't, we cannot forget 9/11, and we can't forget some of these facts. And I'm in I am in a unique position where I lived during this time, and I can reference books that were written not very long after this that detail all the events, and we have to keep this in memory, so that when we pass along the story, that we don't get confused. Like, the Jews did not do 9/11. This is like ridiculous. Do not believe that. Anybody that tells you otherwise is trying to push an agenda, and they're just bad, wrong liars. And then the US government didn't do 9/11. Okay? This is wrong and this is bad. We didn't let it happen. Nobody wanted that to happen. In fact, there was a failure between the FBI and the CIA communicating. And then after that, they started over communicating and spying overly on everybody. And then we had Edward Snowden, which released that they're kind of spying on everybody, right? Surveillance state. So, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. This is all stuff that happened after 9/11. But 9/11 itself was a terrible, terrible tragedy caused by evil people, in this case, Islamic extremist ideology and terrorists. So, we can't forget 9/11. It wasn't just a failure of imagination. It was a failure of ego, of pride, of coordination. The book, The Looming Tower, makes it painfully clear that 9/11 didn't have to happen in the way that it did. But because it happened, it caused a whole series of events which also didn't need to happen. It's a terrible event of history. Core messages I really want to leave you with today. History warns us in whispers, not in headlines. The years leading up to 9/11 were littered with red flags. Missed meetings, ignored memos, and deep-seated rivalries inside our intelligence agencies. The real enemy is complacency. When governments begin assuming that they are too advanced or too powerful or too secure to be touched, that's when disaster strikes. Terrorism does not just come out of nowhere, and it doesn't come from only oppressed people that are right to perform these terrorist acts. Okay? Lawrence Wright, the author, helps us understand that the ideological, social, and political conditions that give rise to extremism. If you forget these roots, it means planting seeds for the next crisis. The cost of poor communication was nearly 3,000 lives, and then many people that have died from cancer and things like that afterwards. Two agencies in this case, the CIA and the FBI, both had pieces of the puzzle, but they refused to work together. Ego killed more than bombs. There was an individual, John O'Neill, who was part of the FBI. His story is a tragedy and a warning. He saw the threat clearly, but he was pushed out by bureaucratic politics. He died on 9/11 inside the very building he tried to protect. Why does all of this matter? It matters because we live in a world still shaped by the aftermath of September 11. Wars, surveillance, polarization, distrust in institutions. But younger generations were not alive or old enough to remember it. And if we let the memory fade, the lessons will fade as well. 9/11 was not just an event, it was a turning point in world history. We watched it unfold on live TV. We remember the smoke, the silence, the confusion. We lived through the fear, the flags, the unity, and then the wars, the surveillance, and the political unraveling. But Gen Z and younger, most of them weren't even born. They didn't feel that jolt. They didn't have their innocence stolen in that way in real time. And the truth is, if people like me don't tell the story, then they won't know what we learned. If we don't pass down the wisdom, they will inherit the consequences without the context. Why we must remember is that September 11 showed us how fragile normal life can be. We took it all for granted. It revealed the cost of arrogance, poor communication, and global ignorance. We thought, well, everybody should think the way we think, and if they think a different way, we'll convince them or change their mind. It doesn't work that way. The nation of Afghanistan does not want to be a democratic institution. We think that's a good idea, and it works for us, and we think it's better, but you can't force that on another nation. It showed how easily fear can erode freedom if we are not vigilant. And we have to teach all of this because the world still has evil actors who hate freedom and diversity. Never again only works if someone is willing to remember why it happened the first time. And the next generation can either inherit our wisdom or repeat our mistakes. Just final 3 messages is we don't remember 9/11 out of trauma, but we remember it to guard the future and to teach what it means to lose peace and what it takes to rebuild it. And history untold becomes history repeated. With that, thanks for listening. Comment below if you found this helpful, and I look forward to discussing it with anyone in the future who reads this. All right, goodbye for now.